They say justice is blind, but what happens when it starts aiming at the wrong people? Hi, I hope you and your family are doing well today. As always, thank you for showing up, for thinking deeply, and for caring about the world we live in. Today's story is one that might shake you because it's not just a story about crime and punishment, it's about what happens when an entire system loses its way and how one man finally opened his eyes. Let's begin. They called it training, but it felt more like indoctrination. At the Metropolitan Police Department, rookies weren't just taught to protect and serve. They were molded to react first, ask later, and see suspicion in every shadow. And no one embodied that better than rookie officer Ethan Cole. Fresh out of the academy, Ethan was young, sharp, and eager. Raised in a quiet suburb, the kind with block parties and porch swings, Ethan had idolized his father, Frank Cole, a respected retired officer who told stories of honor and bravery around the dinner table like they were gospel. "This badge," his father would say, tapping the silver shield on the wall, "isn't just metal, it's a promise. A promise to do right, even when no one's watching." Those words etched themselves into Ethan's soul. They guided his every step, but nothing could prepare him for the world inside the department walls, where justice wasn't always blind. Sometimes it was just willfully ignoring the truth. From his very first day, Ethan sensed the shift. The break room banter, the advice whispered between bites of vending machine snacks, the hardened veterans who didn't smile, just nodded if you followed the code. Out there, respect isn't given, it's taken. You don't wait to get hurt, you act first, make them respect you. Sergeant Don Briggs, a bulky man with a slow drawl and a deadpan stare, liked to stir his coffee while dispensing wisdom like it was holy truth. "Cole," he said one day, "you hesitate, you die. You let them explain, you lose control, don't give them the chance." Ethan nodded. He wanted to fit in. He wanted to do it right. He started to walk faster, speak louder, raise his voice during stops, all in the name of commanding presence. But deep down, Ethan still held on to something soft, something his father had planted in him. That being a cop wasn't about dominance. It was about responsibility. Then came the day that would change everything. At exactly 5:38 p.m. on a chilly Thursday, a call came in. Suspicious male loitering outside Redfield Market. No details, just looks suspicious. It was routine. It was nothing. Ethan had handled dozens of these, but today it was his call. He tightened his vest, checked his belt, and drove to the store. That's where he saw Malik Harris, mid-30s, clean cut, business casual, holding his phone, scrolling through a text, no weapon, no raised voice, no threat. But Ethan didn't see Malik. He saw what his training told him to, a possible threat. He stepped out of the cruiser, approached confidently, just like he was taught. "Sir, put your hands where I can see them." Malik looked up, startled. "Wait, what's going on? I'm just waiting for someone." Ethan's hand hovered near his holster. "Don't move, drop the phone, hands up." Malik did as told, confusion in his eyes. "I haven't done anything. I just came to pick up snacks for my niece." It didn't matter. Suspicious was enough. The cuffs clicked shut around Malik's wrists as the first passerby slowed to watch, then another and another. Someone pulled out a phone and began recording. An old man walked by, clutching his grocery bag. "Hey, I know that guy," he called out. "He's my neighbor. He volunteers at the food bank." Ethan didn't respond. He was already opening the back door of the cruiser. "Sir, officer, this ain't right." Still no answer. Ethan's chest tightened, but he shoved the feeling down, just like Briggs told him to. As Malik sat in the back seat, Silent, humiliated, the crowd buzzed louder. He was just standing there. He didn't even resist. Why is this happening? The video caught every second. By sundown, Ethan Cole's name was trending on social media, but not as a hero, as a symbol of everything broken in the system. By the time Malik Harris sat in the back seat of the squad car, the world outside had blurred into a storm of whispers, camera flashes, and cell phone lenses. He stared straight ahead, heart pounding like a war drum in his chest. His wrists throbbed against the cold metal of the cuffs. But it wasn't the pain that crushed him, it was the question. What more could I have done? He was dressed neatly, had a good job, a clean record, a loving family. He followed the rules. Always had, always tried. And yet, here he was. Ethan Cole stood outside the patrol car, face unreadable. From across the crowd, a teenager shouted, "Yo, he didn't do nothing, man." Another voice, a woman's, pierced the chaos. "Is this what you call protecting the community?" Ethan glanced up, just a flicker, but it was enough to catch the disapproval in their eyes. He shifted uncomfortably, pulling at his collar. This wasn't how he imagined justice would look. The training manual never showed this part. They had taught him how to de-escalate, yes, but that section always felt rushed. The real lessons came in the locker room, in late-night coffee-fueled rants from seasoned officers like Briggs. You let them talk, they control the narrative. You control the narrative, you stay in power. One time, an officer shared a story about filing a report after the fact to make things line up. "It's not lying if it keeps things clean," he had said, earning a chorus of grunts and laughter. Ethan laughed too. He didn't want to seem soft. Now, he wasn't laughing. Back in the car, Malik stared at his reflection in the window. His jaw clenched, his eyes burned. He thought about his niece, how just this morning she had handed him her school drawing and said, "Uncle Malik, bring me gummies, okay?" And now, what would she see? The video, the mugshot. What would he say to her? Sometimes doing everything right still isn't enough? He blinked back tears, refusing to let them fall. As the car pulled off, Ethan's radio crackled to life. "Unit 32, be advised." That call was unverified, source unknown. Ethan's hand froze on the wheel. "Repeat that?" he asked, voice tight. "No active complaints on file. Possible prank. No prior record on subject." His stomach dropped. Malik heard it too. He turned his head slowly, voice shaken. Was this a joke to someone? Ethan didn't answer. He couldn't. That night, the video hit 87,000 views. By dawn, it had doubled. People didn't just watch, they raged. They wrote, "This is why we march." He could have been me or my son. The system sees our skin before it sees our soul. Malik's name became a headline, but not because of what he did, because of what was done to him. And Ethan? He was silent. But inside, the noise had begun. Briggs leaned against the break room wall, watching the video play on someone's phone. He smirked. "Well, looks like you finally made the news, Cole." Ethan didn't laugh. Briggs clapped him on the back. "Don't sweat it. People forget. They always do." But Ethan didn't forget, and he knew he never would. The courtroom was thick with silence, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that hums with tension, like air before a thunderstorm. At the defense table sat Officer Ethan Cole, his uniform still crisp, but his confidence unraveling at the seams. His jaw was tight, his palms sweaty, his eyes locked on the wooden surface before him, as if it might offer him escape. Across from him, sitting high on the bench with a quiet, unshakable authority, was Judge Nathaniel Brooks. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't bang his gavel, He didn't have to. When Judge Brooks spoke, even the walls listened. "Officer Cole," he said, his tone even, "when you put on that badge, who were you protecting?" The question landed like a weight dropped in still water, rippling out into every corner of the courtroom. Ethan opened his mouth reflexively. He'd practiced this. He knew what to say. "I was doing my job, Your Honor. I followed protocol." Judge Brooks leaned forward just a little. His gaze sharpened. "And what protocol told you to arrest a man who wasn't resisting? To ignore his explanation? To escalate a peaceful situation into a public incident?" Ethan hesitated. In his mind, the memory replayed again. Malik's calm voice, his raised hands, his confusion, the crowd, the cuffs, the shame. He wasn't resisting, he was pleading. Ethan swallowed hard. "Your Honor," he said, quieter this time, "I acted on the information I had." "Information?" Judge Brooks interrupted gently. "What information? A vague call, a hunch, or was it a lesson?" he asked, his voice dropping. "A lesson passed down by someone who believed suspicion was enough to destroy a man's life." Ethan flinched. The prosecution moved with quiet precision. They pulled up the video, frame by frame. They submitted the call logs, revealing the tip came from a disconnected payphone. No source, no credibility. They introduced eyewitnesses who had watched Malik's arrest and couldn't believe what they saw. A woman from the crowd took the stand. "He wasn't even moving," she said. "He was texting. He smiled at my son 5 seconds before the officer pulled up. That man didn't do anything." Then came the internal memos, the training materials, the off-the-record notes from closed-door meetings. And the picture became clearer and darker. "This wasn't a mistake," the prosecutor told the jury. "This was a pattern, a method, a culture." He clicked the next slide. Phrases from officer training sessions filled the screen. "Don't wait, dominate, control the narrative. It's not lying, it's alignment." The jury shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Ethan's stomach dropped. He remembered every phrase, every offhand comment, every approving nod. He hadn't just learned how to enforce the law, he'd learned how to bend it. Judge Brooks adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Cole," he said quietly, "justice isn't about power, it's about fairness. Somewhere along the way, you forgot that." Ethan looked up for the first time in the entire trial, right at Malik Harris, sitting beside his family. Their eyes met. Ethan's mouth opened, then closed. He looked down again. Then came the documents, connecting the dots. Officers who coordinated false reports. A network protecting its own from accountability. Internal promotions awarded not for justice, but for compliance. The prosecutor pointed to the chart on screen. "This isn't just about Officer Cole. This is about every officer in this system who chose silence over justice, who looked away, who rewrote reports, who believed that control was more valuable than truth." Ethan's hands trembled. He thought about Sergeant Briggs, about the night in the break room, about the shoulder pats and attaboy after arresting an innocent man. Then Malik stood. He walked to the stand, his posture calm, but every step heavy, his voice quiet but resolute. "Your Honor," he began, "I believed if I followed the rules, I'd be safe. I worked hard, I showed respect, I did everything right. But on that day, none of that mattered." He paused. His hands were clasped tightly. "Because to that officer, I wasn't a man. I was a target. I was a problem. And the worst part wasn't the handcuffs. It was the look in his eyes, like I didn't even deserve an answer." The courtroom hung on his every word. "How do I explain that to my nieces and nephews?" Malik asked, voice breaking. How do I tell them that no matter how hard you try, how kind you are, some people will still see you as less than? Even Judge Brooks blinked slowly, his face softening for a moment. Malik's final words silenced the room. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for change, so no one else's uncle has to go through what I did. He sat down. The air in the room shifted. Even Ethan felt it. The courtroom the next morning didn't feel the same. There was no whispering, no fidgeting, just tension, dense and unmoving, like the whole room was holding its breath. Ethan Cole sat with his fingers clenched, the tip of his pen digging into the paper in front of him. But he hadn't written a word in an hour. He couldn't, because no matter how many times he told himself I was just doing my job, those words were losing their meaning, especially now, especially with Judge Nathaniel Brooks staring straight at him again. Officer Cole, the judge began, voice calm but charged, in your written report, you stated that Mr. Harris was resisting arrest, that he posed a threat. Do you still believe that? Silence. Every eye turned toward Ethan. He swallowed hard. The lie was on the tip of his tongue, but something in his chest stopped it. Not guilt, not fear, truth. No, Your Honor, Ethan whispered. I don't. A collective gasp swept through the courtroom like a sudden gust of wind. Even Malik's mother, seated quietly in the second row, clutching a tissue, let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Judge Brooks didn't flinch. Then why, Officer Cole, he asked. Why did you write it? Ethan's throat closed. His mouth went dry, but he forced the words out anyway. Because that's what I was trained to do. The courtroom fell deathly quiet. Ethan's voice cracked. He didn't raise it, but every word hit like a hammer. I was told that hesitation is weakness, that control is power, that we don't ask questions, we assert authority. And when the arrest didn't match the narrative, I made the narrative fit the arrest. His eyes welled, but he didn't look away. I didn't see Mr. Harris. I saw what I was trained to see, a threat, and I was wrong. For the first time, Ethan turned fully to face Malik Harris. I failed you. I failed your family. I failed what this badge was supposed to stand for. No one moved, because in that moment, Ethan wasn't just testifying, he was unraveling. The prosecutor stepped forward, voice steady but fire underneath. This isn't an isolated confession. It's a crack in the armor. He pulled up a final set of documents, internal affairs records, buried complaints, memos from high-ranking officers, green-lighting tactics designed to escalate rather than de-escalate. And then one final image, a map of officers and command staff tied to a hidden culture of falsification and intimidation, a web, a machine, a network. This is systemic, the prosecutor declared. This is organized corruption. This is a betrayal of public trust on a level we can no longer deny. Judge Brooks nodded solemnly. Then we do not look away. He signed an order right there in court to open a full-scale investigation into the Metropolitan Police Department. A seismic shift. The courtroom erupted, not in noise, but in something deeper, hope. Outside, protesters were already gathering, mothers holding signs, justice for Malik. Our sons are not threats. No more silence. News vans lined the street. Inside the precinct, panic rippled through the halls. Some officers quietly packed their lockers. Others argued, some doubled down, but no one was untouched. And Ethan, he didn't return to his squad car. He returned to the community center, where Malik's family met weekly. Ethan stood there, no badge, no defense, just a man. Mr. Harris, he said, voice shaking. I'm sorry. Malik didn't say much, just looked at him. Words are a start, he said softly. But what you do next, that's what matters. Ethan nodded. Then let me show you. Redemption. Ethan walked away from the force, but he didn't walk away from the fight. He started speaking at police academies, sharing his failure. Authority means nothing without trust, he'd tell recruits. And trust, it starts with seeing people, not profiles. He partnered with activists, joined forums, and helped lead workshops on implicit bias, de-escalation, and reform. He didn't ask to be forgiven. He asked to be useful. And slowly, people started to listen. The courtroom was still. Judge Nathaniel Brooks removed his glasses, folded them gently, and placed them on the bench. He looked out over the gallery, at Ethan Cole, at Malik Harris, at their families, at the rows of strangers whose lives had been shaken just by witnessing this trial. He took a breath, and then he spoke. Today, he said, we didn't just see a confession. We saw a system revealed for what it truly is, flawed, broken, and dangerous when left unchecked. Officer Cole's admission doesn't undo what happened. It won't erase Mr. Harris's trauma, but it does give us one thing we rarely get in this courtroom, a beginning. Ethan was wrong, he admitted it, in front of a city, a judge, a mother's tears, and a man he handcuffed without cause. But Judge Brooks wasn't there to crucify one man. He was there to expose a system that trained good men to do bad things, a machine that fed off fear, conformity, and silence. And Malik? Malik had done everything right. He had followed every rule, and yet he was humiliated, branded, judged, and forced to explain his humanity to a courtroom that never should have doubted it. That is where the true injustice lived, and that is where the change had to start. Justice, Judge Brooks continued, is not about vengeance. It's not about punishment. It is about building a world where fairness is the foundation, not the exception. That begins with truth, with accountability, and with the courage to say, I was wrong. He turned to the officers in the room. A badge is not a license to dominate. It is a responsibility to protect. And every decision you make ripples into someone's life. Ask yourself, will your ripples build trust or destroy it? Then finally, to the community. To those who've been silenced, dismissed, overlooked, your voices are heard. Your pain is valid, and this system owes you more than an apology. It owes you a future. As the courthouse doors opened, the world outside felt different, not fixed, not whole, but woken up. The protest signs didn't feel like demands anymore. They felt like declarations. The conversations on the steps turned into plans, into meetings, into votes, into action. The courtroom had delivered a verdict, but the people were delivering a movement. Months later, Ethan and Malik stood side by side at a youth forum. Malik told his story without bitterness, but with clarity. Ethan followed, his voice quieter now. I used to think doing your job was enough, he said. Now I know better. Doing the right thing, even when it costs you, that's what changes lives. He looked at the young recruits in the room, his eyes steady. You can wear a badge, or you can wear integrity. Only one of those will ever earn you trust. If this story made you feel something, think something, or even question something, that means it did its job. Because justice isn't just a courtroom, it's a conversation, a confrontation, a commitment. So let's keep talking. Let's keep confronting. Let's keep committing to a world where stories like Malik's aren't repeated, but remembered. Leave a comment below what moved you most. Subscribe to our channel, Black Women, where we tell the stories no one else will. And if this story gave you chills, share it with someone who needs to feel it too. Because justice isn't blind, but together we can help her finally see.